So are you all ready to go there, Emily? Okay. Very good. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the board meeting for the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority for April. And a couple of things you'll notice that we're going to start off first thing this morning with our Source Protection Authority meeting. We've got a few items there to deal with on that, and we will deal with that meeting first, and then we will go into our regular board meeting. You'll also notice that there's a few changes to the way we've set up the agenda.
Yeah, I know.
Now that we've dealt with updating our new bylaw. So there's been a few changes, a few modifications to the agenda. And so it's all new for us, but we'll get into the habit of a new routine there. Just a reminder that Emily Chandler is our host. If you have any difficulties, try to get a hold of Emily through the chat feature and she can help you out. Reminder as well to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. If you don't intend to get your comments picked up, please make sure you're muted. And try to use the raised hand feature. If I fail to see your hand, or if you can't do that, make sure you speak up, and we'll try to recognize everybody and get you involved in the meeting. And also just want to remind everyone again that today's meeting is being recorded and live streamed on our YouTube channel. And that's as part of our requirement to allow public viewing of the proceedings. We do have regrets today from Anna Marie Murray. And with that, I'm going to ask Michelle to do the roll call for attendance, please.
Marie Blosh.
Present.
Anna Hopkins. Tony Jackson.
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Here.
Margaret Lupton.
Yes.
Nancy Manning.
Present.
Hugh McDermott.
Present.
Paul Mitchell.
Present.
Brian Petrie.
Present.
Jim Reffel.
Here.
Joe Salter.
Here.
Mark Scheidenberg.
Here.
Alex Westman.
Here.
And Alan Dale.
Present.
And so I just received an email from Anna. She's lost the link. So I'm going to send that to her right now, and she should be joining the meeting shortly.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Michelle. All right, so we're going to start here with our Source Protection Authority meeting. And you'll notice off the top here that we don't have to have a motion now to approve the agenda. We just have to note any modifications. I don't believe there are any. I don't think staff have anything to add to the agenda. So if everyone's okay with that, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest from any of the board members this morning? Not seeing or hearing anything. We have no presentations or delegations this morning for this meeting. That takes us down to item 4.1, which is administrative business, and it's the approval of the minutes. And the last time that we met as the Source Protection Authority was on April 27th, 2021. So could I get Hugh to move those minutes and Paul to second them?
So moved. And so seconded.
Good, thank you very much. Anyone have any questions or comments? Any errors or omission on the minutes from April 27th of 2021? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so I'll call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll call, please.
Marie Blosh.
Yes.
Tony Jackson.
Yes.
Sandy Levin.
Yes.
Margaret Lupton.
Yes.
Nancy Manning.
Yes.
Hugh McDermott.
Yes.
Paul Mitchell.
Yes.
Brian Petrie.
Yes.
Jim Reffel.
Yes.
Joe Salter.
Yes.
Mark Scheidenberg.
Yes.
Alex Westman.
Yes.
And Alan Dale.
Yes. So that's motion's carried. Thank you. We move on to item number 5, and that's reports for consideration. We used to say for approval, but that might be a bit presumptuous. So they're now called reports for consideration. So we have 5.1. It's the ratification of our Source Protection Striking Committee member and committee liaison. If I could get Brian to move that and Jim to second it, please.
Absolutely. So moved. I'll second that.
Good, thank you. And of course, this is the motion that ratifies Joe Salter in this position, and certainly appreciate Joe's willingness to help out and all his contributions to this. So any comments or questions at all on the motion? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so we'll call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blanche,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that's carried. Thank you. And again, thank you to Joe. Really appreciate you helping out with that. The next item we have is 5.2, and this is the Drinking Water Source Protection Annual Progress Report. If I can get Joe to move that report, please, and Mark to second it.
So moved.
I second it.
Good, thank you. Okay. So yeah, good report there. Lots of information, and we are making some progress, but it's been difficult with the pandemic. I'm going to turn it over to Julie. Julie Welker is our Source Protection Program Coordinator, and Julie can give us some highlights here, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a few highlights. I know that report has a lot of content in it, so it's nice to just be able to summarize it briefly for you. The past 6 years of the plan, since it's been implemented, we've been moving ahead. Nearly 100% of the policies that are addressing significant drinking water threats have been implemented or are in progress. COVID has certainly slowed things slightly with lockdowns and so on, but our risk management officials and inspectors have still managed to move ahead. And of course, things have opened up, so they're pushing forward. There has been a number of businesses opening and closing and so on and so forth. So there's constant new threat verifications that are having to happen. But overall, we're progressing well. The Source Protection Committee is really happy with the numbers and how we're moving forward.
Good, good. Okay, anybody have any questions or comments then for Julie? I'm not seeing any hands here.
I'm
Okay.
trying to get my hand up here. This is
Oh,
Marie.
sorry.
I'm having
Go ahead,
problems.
Marie.
Yeah, I just had I noticed on the report on page 6 under septic inspections, it was talking about the number of municipalities, and it just doesn't add up. So I don't know if that's just a mistake or if there's an explanation for that. It says there's 7 municipalities that have sewage systems, 4 are complete, 2 are in the middle of things, and 2 haven't started yet. So that would add up to 8.
Yeah, all I can say is we do have some municipalities that are a little slow on that. We have been pushing them that they need to get on that. And we've set a new timeline that has to be complete by 2023, December 2023. And so we want to make sure they're hitting the compliance there. So we are pushing forward. But in terms of the numbers, I don't know if Katie Ebel, she's our risk management official. She's also on here. Katie, I don't know if you have a follow-up comment on that.
Katie?
Sorry, yes, sorry. I believe there might be a typo there. A lot of our municipalities have moved, well, I shouldn't say a lot of our municipalities. One of our municipalities has moved their septic inspection programs, from a lower tier to an upper tier, and they're still sort of developing their processes. But there is movement across all municipalities and in them preparing their septic inspection programs.
Okay, now I just wanted to point that out because it looked like a kind of a funny discrepancy. The other question that I had is, what's the time, like your planning timelines? I mean, how many years are you looking out for completion of the goals? I mean, we're looking at like, is this like a 2-year, 5 years, kind of ongoing?
At the inception of the source protection plan, there was no deadlines at the time. But since then, the Source Protection Committee has agreed on a timeline of 8 years since the inception of the plan, which was 2015. So at that time, they will review where things are at. But there's changes to the director technical rules. So with that, there's new policies that are going to be in place. So the timelines are always going to be moving forward as new policies and plans come into play. But yeah, the eight years is kind of the new rule, and that's drafted. And we're going through consultation right now to have that approved.
Okay, I mean, it's just so important. So I'm glad to hear it's progressing. Thank you.
Yep, that's good. Thanks, Marie. Any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so I'll call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that motion's carried. Thank you. Next, we have item number 6, and that's reports for information. 6.1 is the Drinking Water Source Protection Program update. If I could get Alex to move that and Marie to second it, please.
So moved.
And seconded.
Good, thank you. So it's a report there for information, giving us a bit of an update, and I'll turn it over to Tracy first, and then see if Julie wants to add some comments as well. So Tracy?
Great. Thank you, Alan. Through the chair, I just wanted to highlight that one of the first items noted in the update was about funding and how significant it is really to have a 2-year agreement with the province for ongoing funding. I can say that almost every session where the ministry was in attendance regarding mandatory and non-mandatory programming, one of the questions arose about, will the province be continuing to fund the mandatory work under the Clean Water Act? So seeing that it being looked at and a 2-year commitment being provided by the province, I really think that's a positive step and a step to demonstrate their commitment to the program. So again, I just wanted to raise that as being quite a significant achievement. Typically, with any provincial transfer payment, it's only been a 1-year duration in the past. So seeing this 2-year duration is a great positive step. With that, I'll turn it over to Julie if she has anything else to add regarding the report.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you. I think you captured it well. We were really thrilled as project managers to hear about the 2 years. The eligible activities and costs largely remain the same. We are supposed to hear today, hopefully, get our agreement in place and signed off. So yeah, but Tracy captured most of it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any comments or questions at all from the committee at all? Oh, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, that I am extremely surprised, but glad to hear that that they're putting that funding in place. It does. There's always been that fear that it's just going to be downloaded with the other programs. So hearing that is a step in the right direction, and I would actually like to praise the province for once for doing something like that, allowing everybody to move forward in a manner of how they're going to know how they're going to act in the next couple of years. So that's positive.
Good, thank you. Other questions or comments? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so I'm going to call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blanche,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes. Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that motion also carries. Thank you. And just before we adjourn, just like to take a quick moment to say thank you to Julie and all the staff. Good to see you, Julie. It's been a year, but you make it look so easy, but there's a lot of work that goes on here. Even now that the source protection plans are up and running, there's constantly modifications, new municipal wells being drilled, and water taking levels change, and so wellhead protection areas change. So there's always changes being involved, and a lot to organize, and of course to get everybody to do the electronic annual reporting. It's a lot to pull together. So we really appreciate that, Julie, you and all the staff that are involved with it. And thank you very much, and keep up the good work. And with that, motion to adjourn the source protection meeting. And if I can get Anna to do that, please.
Yes, I move adjournment.
Good, thank you very much. Okay, so now we can move on to our regular Board of Directors meeting. And so I will call this meeting to order, and we will begin here with our First Nation territorial greeting. We begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Lenape peoples, who have a long-standing relationship to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation at Moraviantown. In the region, there are 11 First Nation communities and a growing Indigenous urban population. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island. Next, we have modifications to the agenda. I don't believe there are any for today, but does anyone have any modifications at all to make to the agenda? I'm not seeing or hearing anything. So next, the declarations of pecuniary interest. Any of the board members have any interest to declare? If not, that moves us on to item number 4. We have no presentations or delegations today. Item number 5 is administrative business, and we have 5.1. That is the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, and that was dated on March the 22nd, 2022. If I could get Tony to move that and Sandy to second it, please.
So moved. Second it.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Any errors or omissions at all from those minutes? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so I will call for the vote. And Michelle, if you can do the roll, please.
Mary Blanche,
Yes.
Hannah Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schradenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that motion's carried. Thank you. Moves us on to item number 5.2, and we have business arising from the minutes. And there's 3 of them there in total. So the first one is 5.2.1. It's a species at risk stewardship funding program update. You'll recall we had some discussion on that, and staff have gotten some more for us here. So if I could get Margaret to move that, please, and Nancy to second it.
So moved.
So seconded.
Okay, thank you. And it's, we just got done congratulating the province on funding one thing, but unfortunately here was something they didn't fund. And unfortunately didn't let us know about it until quite late in the year. But great to see the response from the public, and individuals and businesses have stepped forward and helped us to at least fill the interim gap, and we'll see where we go from here. I'm going to turn it over to Tracy for a minute, and then we'll open up for some questions and comments. So Tracy, you have anything you want to add here?
Yeah, no, my thoughts exactly, Alan. And through the chair, I'd just like to say that how pleased staff have been as well about the donations that have been provided, and how we're continuing to work with and expand on those opportunities with local businesses for some more corporate ongoing donations. So that's kind of the shift moving forward, and it's unexpected if we'll hear any announcements about funding programs, given how late the year it is now. So with that, I did see Anna had her hand up earlier, and the reaction from Councillor Margaret Lupton as well.
Okay, Anna, go ahead, please.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, you'd think after 2 years. Yeah. My apologies.
That's quite all right.
I'm more or less going to repeat what Tracy and the chair have said about thanking not only the not-for-profit groups and foundations, but also for individuals and groups for stepping up. It really shows the importance of this program. And as a board member, I was so pleased to see the community step up. I hope that is something that the province is seeing and hoping that they understand the importance of this program, and we'll see what happens later on in the year. But thanks again for everyone for making this happen.
Yep, sure enough. Thank you. Anyone else? Was it Margaret? Did you have something to add there?
Well, yes, and just sort of similar comments. I mean, I think it's wonderful, this money that the staff have raised, but I also think that it shows the value that the community puts on the work that's done by Upper Thames. So I think it's congratulations to everyone.
Yep, true enough. Yep. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, I'm going to call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Mary Blanche,
Yes.
Hannah Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Raffle,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Alan Dale.
Yes. So that's carried. Thank you. Next we have is 5.2.2. And this is another report for information, a follow-up on the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board rebate. If I could get Paul to move that, please, and Hugh to second it.
So moved. So seconded.
Okay, thank you. So we got some information back on this one, and I think we've got even more since then. So Tracy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yes, at the time of writing the report, it was an estimate of $67,000 to be the reimbursement. And as you recall, during our last meeting, everyone was just receiving notices that there was going to be a potential reimbursement. And then since that time, we were able to get an estimate, but it's now been confirmed that the amount is actually $83,963. So that's good to see. This will be something that we typically account as unplanned or unexpected revenues, and we allocate those back to our service center costs to reduce those. That way, those costs are saved authority-wide. Our service center costs are allocated out based on FTEs. We didn't really want to skew our wage costs year over year by attributing a cost back to specific wages in this case. It will be difficult to compare to future years because it's not expected that this type of rebate will be continuing. With that, if there's any questions.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Paul, you're first. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Tracy. Is there a relationship between the amount of rebate we're getting and our claim history with WSIB? Because our annual health and safety report appeared that we didn't have a significant number of any claims to WSIB, and we have a relatively safe working environment.
Tracy, you have any information on that?
I don't have any information about that, but I'll turn it over to Teresa to see if she had more information provided in the most recent estimate that we were given.
No, I can't say. When I checked their website and their descriptions of everything, and it's really they only kind of explained that, you know, they have this surplus, and that obviously they didn't feel that they were going to be needing it, so they wanted to distribute it back out. But I can follow up for sure.
I just wonder if there was a relationship there, or whether they just split it up equally between different organizations or not. It'd be nice to know we were getting rewarded for all the work that goes into our health and safety program and the work of our staff to work safely.
Yeah, I will follow up.
Thank you. I apologize for not asking that in advance.
No, that's good. Thank you. No. Any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing or hearing anything. So with that, I will call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Maria Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that's carried. Thank you. And the last one here is 5.2.3, and that's a site alteration bylaw report. Some good information there on what's going on across the watershed. Now, Alex brought this up at the last meeting. Alex, maybe I could get you to move that. And Brian to second it, please.
So moved.
Seconded.
Good, thank you. So yeah, lots of good information there. And Jenna, I don't know if you want to draw our attention to a few things.
Sure, thank you. So at the last board meeting in March, it was brought up that the municipality of Thames Center was in the process of developing a site alteration bylaw. And so the board asked for some more information to be brought back and that more information be communicated to our member municipalities about these bylaws. So my report kind of describes what they are. They're basically a tool for municipalities to regulate the removal and placement of fill, as well as the grading of land. And although we as a conservation authority regulate those activities, we're somewhat limited in that we only regulate within hazard lands. So really this type of tool allows the municipalities to have sort of a complementary tool, which is sort of a standalone approval process to regulate these types of activities. And so you'll see if you scroll down a little bit, I included a table which shows you our 17 member municipalities and which municipalities have these types of bylaws and which ones do not. So you can see it, the majority don't. There's 10 out of our 17 that do not. So they have a lot of other benefits. I've listed some of those things, and we certainly recommend all of our municipalities to adopt these types of bylaws. So we will be communicating this information out to all of our municipalities, along with some examples. We have some great within the municipalities in our watershed that have these types of bylaws that are good examples to provide to our other municipalities that don't. And then there's a sort of a template that was developed by a provincial organization that provides a template for all municipalities in Ontario. So we'll provide both of those things when we communicate this out.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was surprised to see that there's some variation in Oxford County, and I was going to forward that to planning staff, but I'll leave it to you. You said you were going to forward that to staff, so I look forward to some discussion in my own municipal council dealing with this issue. So other questions and comments? Mark, go ahead.
I guess my first question, Mr. Chair, probably refers back to the comment you just made. In Oxford County, would this be something the upper tier should have specific concern about, or really the lower tier who's sort of looking at plans of subdivision and whatnot? For example, in Woodstock out on the far east end of Petula, they're doing massive servicing right now for an expanded industrial mall, if you want to call it that, and a lot of sand and dirt and stuff is being moved. So I would think it'd be interesting for Jenna to maybe take an opportunity to be a delegation even at the city of Woodstock to be proactive ahead of time and sort of say, well, here's why the city of Woodstock needs this, and then we could go forward and doing a study with staff to create the proper bylaw.
Yeah, in Oxford, the planning is at the county level, but certainly at the lower tiers, there's lots of work being done in your own zoning bylaws and everything. So Jenna, I'll let you comment on that.
Yeah, it's definitely a tool that should be brought to the lower tier municipalities. And I'm happy to come out and speak to municipal councils or staff about kind of the importance of these bylaws and how they complement our own regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act.
Okay, good. Any follow-up, Mark? Okay, thanks. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of a pet project for me as well. And I can tell you that Luca Medolf is also in progress. We were able to acquire the bylaw from one of our neighboring municipalities and went through it carefully and changed the name and a few other little things, tweaked it a bit to our own needs. I had the opportunity to speak to the mayor of Thames Center at Good Roads, and we had a good conversation, and I passed on that same template to her, and that's why they're working on it themselves. They've had some fairly significant issues there in their municipality with site alteration on a property that prompted this conversation. So, and I think a lot of municipalities are feeling the same thing, where they have, whether it's land developers or farmers that are bringing in large amounts of fill and filling in wetlands and small streams and things, just to be able to make that little bit productive for farmland or make it productive for development. And this is a critical piece of documentation for us to be able to work forward as municipalities and the Conservation Authority. It's hard to believe that there's so many that don't have this. And I'm hopeful that staff will be able to work with the municipalities to get this going. So thanks.
Yep, that's very good. Thank you, Alex. Tony, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess when I read through this, I just was a little bit confused. So the recommendation is to receive the report, but in the final analysis of the report, there's an action plan to suggest that our staff would reach out to municipalities. So I think the motion or the recommendation should include that action item as part of the recommendation, not just to receive the report, because in actual fact, we're doing more than receiving the report. We're suggesting that, or we haven't really voted on it, but we're suggesting that we're directing staff to vote and make recommendations to municipalities about an action item. So I just think the actual recommendation should be changed to include that for the purposes of discussion and voting. So, and I just wonder if the Ontario Soil Regulation Task Force should not be the group that's motivating and communicating with the municipalities. I just wonder if we're not creating more work for ourselves and we're already under financial pressure. So if there's organizations out there looking after this already, why would we want to duplicate effort? So I just have a concern with that too, understanding we have fiduciary responsibilities for our organization. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Tony. I think if everyone's, here we go again with friendly amendments, but maybe we can amend the motion that we receive for information and that staff contact the member municipalities regarding this issue. But we'll get to that in a minute. But first of all, let's deal with the second part. Do our staff have the time to do this? And we also Tony mentioned the task force that's involved with this too. So Jenna, do you have any comments at all on that?
Sure, yes, through you, Chair. I'd be happy to support the this communication to our municipalities. We're in regular communication with our member municipalities already, so I'm happy to send this out. I don't think it would be too much more work for us to communicate this information out as well. In terms of the Ontario Soil Regulation Task Force, I mean, I haven't done that much research on it, but from what I found, I'm not sure how active that group is anymore. So you'll see that the template that was prepared by that group was done in 2016. And it doesn't appear as though that group has been all that active since that time. So there was, this really kind of came about due to pressures from municipalities looking for this type of tool about a decade ago. And it was largely around the GTA and where a lot of municipalities with rural areas were seeing a lot of dumping of fill from all of the development that was happening in the GTA. So it was largely a GTA issue that was raised, and you'll see a lot if you look. A lot of the municipalities in the GTA and surrounding area have developed these types of bylaws, and now it's starting to extend a little bit further out. But I'm not sure how active that task force is anymore. I can certainly look into that, but I'm also happy to communicate this out to our municipalities.
Very good, thank you. Any follow-up at all, Tony? Are you okay?
No, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and understand what we're making a recommendation for and to.
Yep, okay, that's good. Oh, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm definitely for, this is something that would help the Conservation Authority as well as municipalities. I believe a lot of them probably think that they're just covered by the site plan control because that's a all-encompassing development process, but it's those other ones that aren't under site plan control. I do remember the big push for regulating the soils, because it was the other issue was that it was so onerous that it could be good fill, but a lot of it was just going to landfills because it was such an onerous process to be able to test it and move it if it couldn't come from here and there. And so a lot of it was just easy for the development to get rid of the soil in the landfill because they need that cover product as well. So yeah, I'm all for any sort of communication back and forth, as long as it's not too onerous. It needs to be on the municipality to, they're the one that has to take up it anyway with staff, when they have time and put that bylaw forward. And I'm sure most of them will, because it's an easy thing to do. Like you said, there's there's easy ones to steal out there, and or sorry, I say borrow and adopt. So.
Okay, good. Thank you. Tony, are you again, or is that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I had another
Sorry.
note here that I didn't include at first. So the other thing I want to make sure is that we're not creating more regulation and that responsibility for the Conservation Authority. I want to, my understanding that this would be solely the responsibility to manage and police and regulate by the municipalities, and not create more work for us long-term down the road. This is simply a suggestion on an environmental guideline for municipalities to follow, and not for inclusion in our bylaws and enforcement policies.
Yeah, it's my understanding if it's out of the regulated area, it's municipalities, but Jenna, can you confirm that?
Yes, that's correct. Chair.
Okay, good, thank you.
If I could add.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, is just again, it's providing the municipalities that further explanation about how the two are complementary, because I think there has been some confusion in the past when it's related to fill and anything that's natural looking woodlands, upland woodlands. There's a misunderstanding sometimes that the Conservation Authority can regulate those areas. So again, it's almost like an education to our municipalities, so they understand the tools that are available to them in those areas that we cannot regulate.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other comments or questions. So the motion here does say receive information, but in the report it says that we're going to also have staff forward this to municipal staff. So we should be consistent here, as Tony pointed out. So can we amend then the motion to include what's actually in the report, which says that we are going to pass the information on? So Alex, I got you to move it and Brian to second it. Are you okay with making that change so that the motion is consistent with what we said in the report?
Yes, I am.
It's my understanding that we have to make an amendment, correct? We have to move an amendment to the motion? Or is the motion on, because the motion is on the floor at this point?
Yeah,
Right?
that's what with Nigel's remarks now, that we should make an amendment. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on it. So,
and I'll gladly I'll move the amendment.
Okay.
That direction be staff to share if
everybody's happy with this. So Tony, you made the amendment to make sure that we do this. You're still going to move that amendment?
Yes.
And Brian, you're willing to second the amendment?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So just we're all clear on that, we're going to vote on the amendment, which is to have staff simply forward this to municipalities and have them deal with it. So if everyone's happy on that and there's no other comments or questions, we're going to vote on the amendment. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Just before I do that, I did take the wording directly from the report. If that's what we want to go with, I can read that out so we're all on the same page.
Sure.
If that's the wording that we want to go with. So the amended motion would read that the report regarding site alteration bylaws be received for information, and that staff reach out to the municipalities identified in the above table that do not currently have a site alteration bylaw to recommend the development of one.
Okay.
Is
yeah,
that...
that's a full explanation of the amendment, so that's good. Okay, so we'll vote on the amendment and then we'll vote on the main motion as amended. So if everybody's good with that, Michelle, you do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that carries. We'll now vote on the amended motion in total. Michelle read that out for us, and thank you for getting us the proper wording there, Michelle. If there's no other comments or questions, then I'm going to call for the vote on the amended motion. And if you could do the roll, please, Michelle.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yeah.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. Okay, so that's carried. Thank you very much. And thanks again to Alex for bringing this up to the rest of the board. And thanks to Jenna for looking into it. And one of those things where we kind of assume that we're all doing something and we're on the same page, and we find out that there's some that we're not, and there's some work that we could do there. So we'll pass that on to member municipalities and they can take it from there. We have no correspondence for today's meeting. Takes us down to item number 6, which is reports for consideration. 6.1, this is a Provincial Offences Act officer designation for Aaron Brooker. And if I could get Jim to move that and Joe to second it, please.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if Aaron's joined us yet or not.
Yes, he has.
So I'll turn on to Tracy or Brent, who wants to.
Yeah, I see Aaron has joined the meeting, and
Okay.
I'll pass it over to Brent to do an introduction.
Brent can do the introductions and explain to us how we're making out with our staffing levels and everything. So Brent, over to you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'd like to introduce Mr. Aaron Brooker to the UTRCA Board of Directors. And Aaron is up on the screen there. As outlined in the report, Aaron has a number of years of experience in the enforcement field, with a number of those years also working in the conservation authorities throughout, both in the Upper Thames and the Grand River Conservation Authority in an enforcement role. So with that, I guess I'd like to officially take this opportunity to welcome Aaron back to the UTRCA and to the Fyi Conservation Area team. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, unless you have any further questions.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I see Aaron there now on the tile. So good morning to you, Aaron, and welcome. Glad to have you fulfilling this role and helping us out over here at Upper Thames. So that's great. Any comments or questions at all from board members? I'm not seeing or hearing anything. So we have the motion there, and I will call for the vote. Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Sorry, I was having some technical trouble. Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that's carried. Thank you. And congratulations, Aaron, and appreciate that. Did you want to say a few words at all?
Yeah, thank you for
taking the recommendation. Just want to say that I'm happy to be back with the Upper Thames and working outside again. So yeah, thank you very much. And I look forward to meeting everybody and seeing everybody around.
Well, that's great. Thank you. And yes, glad to have you here, and I'm sure we'll have lots to keep you busy. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, so next we have item number 7, which is reports for information. 7.1 is our section 28 status report. And if I could get Mark to move that, please, and Alex to second it.
I'll move it.
So seconded.
Okay, good. Thank you. We've got Jenna here and staff to answer any questions. Any questions all from the board members on the section 28 report? Anna, you're first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions. I just want to pass on my thanks to staff. I really appreciate receiving these reports, as I'm often asked, can we move these section 28s a little bit faster? But with these reports, you can see that we've complied with the timelines except for 3. And I just really want to pass on my thanks to staff for taking on the workloads that we're experiencing, especially when it comes to development in our area. So thank you.
Yep, thank you. And certainly the province has been putting a bit of pressure on municipalities and conservation authorities recently, making some changes, but it's going to make it even more challenging for our staff, but they're doing a great job of trying to meet the timelines. Sandy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to kind of build on Anna's point, I know from other tables I sit around, the industry in London in particular points a finger at the Conservation Authority often in terms of timelines. And when I read these reports, like Anna, I see that we're doing a relatively good job. Even without the extra staff that we had asked for from the City of London, to be able to process City of London applications. So I'm curious through you to staff is, how are we getting the information back, not only to staff at the City of London and the industry at the City of London, but also the Council of the City of London in particular?
Okay, Jenna, any comments or questions there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, Sandy, but we aren't really communicating these numbers back to the city, other than, our discussions with staff. And, we meet with city staff regularly to talk about different applications and where things are at. And obviously there's lots of pressure on our staff to get comments or applications and permits out quickly, but reviewed and turned around. But we do have regular and consistent communication with staff to let them know where we're at in terms of our process, our review process, and timelines. But I'm not sure. We don't really communicate that back to council. And if you have some recommendations, I'm all ears.
Sandy, do you have a bit of follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if it's something Anna can take on as a member of City Council in London. I mean, she gets these reports. If it's a way to pass them on to her colleagues at council, that's one. The other thought is, for Jenna and her staff to consider reaching out to the London Home Builders and the London Development Institute to update them. Certainly, we're never perfect, and it's always the outliers that grabs people's attentions and what people focus on. But I think it could be helpful to expand their knowledge base, perhaps, and maybe even actually get their help in getting some of the surplus funding from time to time from the City of London towards UTRCA staff, not only their own staff. So those would be my 2 suggestions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. I see Tracy was trying to get in there with a comment. So Tracy, I'll turn over to you first.
Yes, thank you, Sandy. Great suggestions, because as we're going through our inventories, programs, and services, part of what we're putting together for all of our municipalities are our programs and services packages. And as suggested from last meeting as well, taking these numbers specific to each municipality for permitting so that they have that broader context for their specific municipalities, but also planning. And one of the new emerging issues in planning is the passage of Bill 109 now. Again, it's to increase development, the turnaround times for development and that development process. So having those conversations, and Jenna suggested with our municipalities to see how it's impacting their own planning departments too, and then how we can better prepare our staffing complement to be able to assist, because we are certainly a piece in that puzzle. Certainly it's okay for us to have those conversations with London, but we also have to remember the rest of the watershed too are experiencing these same pressures. And I think Mark's got his hand up, and Woodstock can understand that, yes, with that passage of Bill 109, it's going to leave most of our municipalities with very tight timelines for processing Planning Act applications. And it's not just us, it's all other agencies that provide those comments on those applications too. So certainly an interesting time. But wanting to better understand how we can assist in our part and have the capacity to do so.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Yeah, Mark, you're next, so go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a comment. I was going to comment on the More Choices, More Homes Act, but I specifically like the fact that this chart says application received date first. So there's one, for example, in Woodstock, November 1st, 2021 on Beards Lane. And what I think is important about that is maybe the project started by Oxford County Planning, not to throw them under the bus or not to throw the Upper Thames under the bus. Maybe that the planning project started October 15th, and then finally a light went above somebody's head and says, oh boy, we better get the Upper Thames comment on this. And Upper Thames didn't receive it until November 1st. So I think if you look at the timelines from when Upper Thames received it to when the permits are issued, I think the timing is gone very quickly through all of these reports for the most part, right? I mean, there's going to be things that have to be checked and double checked, but that's sort of the comment I wanted to make. Is I think the application received line is very important in these reports.
Yeah, absolutely. Our staff need to get the application, and they need a complete application because a lot of people don't have all the information, or then they turn around and amend it. And the staff have to go back and now check things differently again. So it's our staff can only work with what they're given. So that's important. Tony, you're next.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So I think there must be some type of numeric sequence in all these applications. So reading between the lines, there's a lot of open applications. So how many applications are in the queue? I mean, these are only completed, correct? So how many applications are in front of our staff pending review and investigation and completion? Is there 10, is there 30, is there 50? What is the workload in the pipe here for staff to deal with?
Jenna, go ahead if you want to tackle that.
Sure, and I don't have a number off the top of my head. I can look it up, and if you give me a few minutes, I could look it up while we're on the call. Yeah, certainly there's lots of open applications that staff are working on, and these are just the list of permits that have been issued. So yeah, I mean, I think workload is still quite heavy. We're seeing, we're continuing to see significant development pressure that's meaning a lot of applications that are coming forward that our staff are having to juggle. And we have been trying to increase capacity, as you know, and I think you'll probably hear at the next board report, we do have another regulations officer that's been hired for the City of London, and that's to replace Brent. So that information will be coming forward at the May meeting for you. But we are trying to increase capacity and deal with applications, continue to deal with applications in a timely manner, but certainly workload is a concern and is heavy right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's kind of addresses my concern. I think It's easy to see here that we have successes, but I think where the criticism comes from is probably the open and unresolved or unissued permits rather than the ones that we have permitted. And it's nice to know that, what type of workload our staff are dealing with, and that helps to budget manpower and staffing and time, and gives us a better understanding of what we need to do to support staff going forward as well. So also the other thing to consider, I'm sure, is timelines and time of year or seasonal applications. I'm sure probably every new year there are many new applications that flood in for spring and summer projects and developments. So is it a seasonal thing that we need to look at how we can help support staff or adjust staff and so on and so forth. So I think there's still a big missing part of information that we could use, understanding and knowing the open applications in front of us and the significance of those applications. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I guess if
Jenna?
I could just add to that, Alan, definitely the spring is a busy time of year. Lots of people starting projects that require permits. So this tends to be a heavier time of year regardless of the year. But one thing that staff have been noting recently is just the lack of contractors available to do projects at the moment, which is sort of helping us in a way, because there's lots of people coming forward with project ideas, but they can't necessarily get started because they don't have their contractors 6 months out or a year out even. So that's giving us a little bit more time to kind of work through the application with people without the pressure from the contractor to get started. So that's been one saving grace, I suppose.
Okay, good. Anna, you're next.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me again, and really appreciate the comments from all board members about how we communicate these Section 28s, given the significant development pressures. And it's important how we not only support Upper Thames staff, but our municipalities in getting information and having those conversations. I'm happy I support all Sandy's suggestions and happy to assist where possible. And I appreciate staff's comments. It's just not the City of London. Obviously, we've got many here. I'm glad to hear we're going to be hiring an extra person to deal with these Section 28s. But there's a lack of, as we experience development pressures, there's a lack of understanding and information regarding Upper Thames and the work that they do. And I think it's really important that we provide that not only in the City of London, but to all municipalities. So thanks everyone for the conversation.
Yep, that's good, Anna. And thank you. And yeah, you're quite right. All of us report back to our own municipalities, and sometimes we hear a fellow councillor make some remark about a conservation authority or some other organization, and we need to stand up and relay our side of the story back and find out if there is an issue and there's something we can do to facilitate the work between our own municipalities and the CA. So we've all got a role to play there, and some good suggestions there for staff too to try and help communicate things to the developers and the municipalities. O'Brien, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Development is obviously, whether it's small or large, is a very expensive, time-consuming process. And so as soon as the first person that says, well, no, you have to do this, you're going to be a target. And especially with, I'm not going to say all the good, easy land is being developed very quickly. It's always the first to go. So you're going to see more rise in the areas that are harder to develop because the market is so demanding of it still. So it's worthwhile right now to do that. So there will be an increase in that. I agree with getting everybody the information as possible, but so they are aware of it. It doesn't mean it's always a horse, you can lead a horse to water statement, but especially with the development community, they're any blockage in their business plans, and I get they're in business to make money, is going to be a target. So and it's a way for them to defer on to other people their issues that they're facing and they're wanting to complete. So I appreciate staff's ability to keep up. I know it's been, I can tell by everybody in the development community that it's been a struggle to do that, given the massive push we've seen in the last couple of years of development. So yeah, anything we can do to get the information out there with any project that we have is great. But I think staff has done an amazing job at this point of keeping up and keeping things going in a timely manner, which is very impressive with what has gone on. So very good.
Okay, thank you. Not seeing any other comments or questions. So we do have a motion on the floor to receive the Section 28 report. And with that, I will call for the vote. So Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Mary Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Tony, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, technical difficulty with my finger. Yeah, yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that motion is carried. Thank you. Takes us down to 7.2, a water management spring update and reservoir status report. So if I could get Brian to move this, and Jim, could you second this, please?
So moved.
I'll second that.
That's great. Thank you. Really good report. I think it's a really a good reminder about the flood control structures we have and the purposes they serve. And, big difference from a year ago when we had a dry spring, and every year is different, but it's good to put it all into context. So Tracy, you have some comments on this report.
Yes, thank you, Alan. I just wanted to say thanks again to Chris Tasker and Mark Helston for putting together this report. It kind of stemmed out of an internal meeting that we had following our February flood events, and doing an overview and synopsis of those events. And then recognizing that this time of year is often when we get the questions about what status we're at with filling the reservoirs. Again, reinforcing that our reservoirs do serve multiple purposes, and they're not just for flood control, but also flow augmentation. And I expect this will be the start of an annual reporting back to the board, so that you're able to have this information and again share this with your municipalities if questions arise. Chris and Mark are certainly here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Any comments or questions at all from board members? I'm not seeing or hearing anything. Don't see any hands. So, okay, if there's no comments or questions, I will call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Mary Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yeah.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes, that's carried. And again, that's an interesting report. So thank you to Chris and Mark and all the other staff involved with our flood control structures. As I said before, we just kind of assume those things are there and we know what they're doing, but it's good to have an update on the role they play and the critical infrastructure that they are and how necessary they are. So it's really good information there. Thank you. Next item is 7.3, and that's the first quarter financial update. So if I can get Marie to move that and Anna to second it, please.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Lots of information there as well. So any comments or questions at all on that report? Sandy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, in the second paragraph, there's a reference to the change in the wage grid. I'm assuming that's the change based on the budget we passed, and that the overall changes that we hired a consultant for are still on their way. Is that the correct assumption?
Christine, are you answering this one?
Yes, the wage grid for the budget approved was implemented in March. Any change to that grid as a result of the compensation review is yet to happen.
And Mr. Chair, the timing on us receiving a report on the compensation review, has that been planned for yet?
I can answer that through the chair. It's going to be scheduled. We confirmed with our consultant yesterday that her availability is for the May board meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Paul, go ahead. Paul, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, Vic,
Oh,
a second. To you, Mr. Chair, first paragraph, it says slight decrease in reservation revenues in the parks due to largely delayed implementation revamped system. So just wondering what those changes were and why, if there was a delay.
I don't know, Tracy, do you want to tackle that, or who's going to look after that one?
I'll ask Brent to further elaborate on the change to that reservation system, getting it up and running.
I think that's the old Camus system has been upgraded, but Brent?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. That's correct. So the old Camus, we've entered into another contract with Camus, and the reservation system has been updated to a Camus 5 platform. And so that platform, the delivery and the rollout of that platform, and when it was becoming active to accept reservations, was slightly delayed from last year. So that's the reason.
Okay, Paul, is that good?
No, that's good. So it's just a technical situation. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Again, yeah, maybe just a question again towards the Conservation Authority idea and revenues and that side of things. I'm guessing that the full seasonal campsite situation, especially those with hydro, would be almost 100% all booked. Would they not be by now, or are you behind in that? How is that tracking? Because as far as revenue goes, it would seem like if you're 100% or very close to that being booked already for the full seasons, that I don't know if you could expand campsite areas, or how would be the next way to deal with that possibly?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. It's mostly in regards to the overnight to transient camping. So that Camus 5 system takes in the transient camping, typically go live on February 1st of each year. The seasonal sites, that may not be reflected in this quarterly report. Not sure when this ended, but the seasonal site payments are coming in as we speak. So we've been doing early registration through the 3 of our CAs last weekend and this weekend as well. So Cadoc specifically, I believe, is opening this weekend and accepting payments as the campers come in. So you would not see that revenue being reflected in this report.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, say it's still early in the year but the financial situation looks good so far. So thank you, Christine, and I'm sure you'll keep a close eye on it for us. So if there's no other comments or questions, I will call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Mary Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lepton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes. So that motion's carried. That's good. Thank you. Next, we have item 7.4, and that's the FYI report. If I could get Sandy to move that and Tony to second it, that we receive that for information.
So moved.
Seconded.
That's great. Thank you. Lots of good information there. Of course, it's, as everyone says, it's the busy time of year, lots going on. Big thank you to everyone that was involved with the Thames River cleanup over the past weekend. All the volunteers and staff, and also Mark Schadenberg. If everyone got the photo, Mark Schadenberg out there helping out, so that's great to see. I know there's some more community cleanups coming up in the next few weeks. I think Ingersoll has one in 2 weeks' time, so that's good. Lots of good information there. Any other comments or questions at all on the FYI report? I'm not seeing anything, so we've got the motion to receive it for information, and I will call for the vote. So Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Murray Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
Alan Dale,
Yes. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Next, we have item number 8, and this is the new item in our agenda. So now with our updated administrative bylaw, it's a chance for anyone to give notice of motion. So does anyone want to give a notice that they are going to bring a motion to the floor at a future meeting? I'm not seeing or hearing anything. But that's one that we will have on our agenda from now on, and I'm sure people will get more comfortable with that and we can utilize that. So if there's nothing there, we then go down to item number 9, chair's comments. Lots of good stuff there in the FYI, but I just wanted to mention a couple of more things. Our staff are busy out the tree power event and things like that, but there is lots of tree planting going on. And I'm going to be coming up to London hopefully on Friday and picking up my trees. So thank you to staff for getting that already, and trees will be going in the ground this time of year. I also wanted to mention that tomorrow at Oxford County Council, they will be awarding the Oxford County Stewardship Award. And they do this annually. This year there are 3 finalists. And I believe 2 of them are in the Upper Thames River watershed, 2 of the 3. But one of the finalists is our own Scott Gillingwater. Scott, in addition to doing work throughout the watershed, has done some amazing work on his own property. So congratulations to Scott for being recognized as one of the finalists for that award. So we'll wait and see who wins tomorrow night, but that's great to see. Any items from the members? Any members' comments? I'm not seeing anything there right now. Tracy, how about you?
I see that.
I see hands going up. There we go. Okay. Paul, go ahead.
I was a little slow raising my hand, so
that's okay.
We talked about it in the pre-meeting meeting, but I just want to extend congratulations to you, Alan, from the rest of the board members for your I don't know whether you were elected or appointed to vice chair of Conservation on Territorial. So maybe, I don't know if Tracy was going to mention this in her comments, but from the fellow board members, congratulations, and I'll leave it to Tracy to elaborate on what happened.
Tracy, do you want to add anything while we're on this item, or?
Well, I can say that Samantha Lawson, who is the General Manager CAO from the Grand River Conservation Authority, that knows Alan as well, nominated Alan at Conservation Ontario Council to continue to come onto the board as vice chair of Conservation Ontario. So I know I was very happy to see that announcement, and Alan graciously accepted.
Well, thank you, Paul, and thanks, folks. It's just a case of being lucky, I guess, and being at the right place at the right time. I had served as a vice chair of Conservation Ontario back a number of years ago. And now with these changes the province has made with the 2-year limit on being a chair, there's a lot of changes happening and there isn't much continuity. So you have a lot of new people coming on. And at our meeting, we had several new board chairs. And so it's the chair was no longer standing. He'd only been the chair for 1 year. He was no longer standing for another term. We also lost one of the vice chairs. So there was some vacancies there. And I was quite willing to step into the breach there and help out. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to being on the board of directors for Conservation Ontario, and certainly anything I can do to help the Upper Thames and help Conservation Ontario, we'll try our best. So thank you. Marie, you're next.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I like the new agenda and the provision for members' comments. I've never felt that we couldn't say something if we wanted to, but just seeing it there in having its own little section is very inclusive, and I think it's a positive change.
Very good, thank you. Okay. And again, that's one of these items that we'll get more comfortable with as we go forward. So if there's nothing else for today, back to you, Tracy. Do you have anything else for General Manager's comments?
Sure, and thanks for adding that, Marie. I felt that in the past, we always had an opportunity for members to add and expand on activities that were going on in their municipalities. But I think having it there in writing is just kind of that little mental reminder that that's a designated spot to be inclusive and make sure that everyone can bring events and ideas to the board at that time. A few comments that I wanted to say. I'll start off with some sad news. I'm not sure, I know a few of you in London may have heard that Cameron Gorey, who was a longtime employee at Stantec, had passed away. He'd been working at Stantec since he was 15 years old. We had staff who had worked quite closely with Cam on the West London Dyke Rehabilitation Project to attend his memorial service, but also wanted to express that we're working with staff from the City of London and Roebuck Construction to plant a tree along the West London Dyke in his memory, and perhaps include a memorial monument in some way to Cameron's life. So I know a few were aware of his involvement with the Dyke and wanted to again pass on what we're doing to recognize Cam's work. As well, I wanted to update the board on the phase 2 regulations that have now been posted to the environmental registry. They're complete. These are the levy regulations. Not much change from what we can see. And as you can recall, most conservation authorities didn't see a lot of changes with the regulations, but had comments for their very specific instances of where they wanted a little bit more flexibility, where they had previous agreements with municipalities on when budgets would be approved and timelines and their processes. So again, not for the prescription that is often in regulations, but certainly allowing for some flexibility as well to recognize very specific instances. You know, we have some conservation authorities that really only have 1 or 2 municipalities. And so their budget process is a little bit different when you're dealing with a lot fewer numbers. So certainly wanted to make sure that the board was aware that those had just been posted to the ERO. I believe it was either late Thursday night or Friday morning. So that's new news. But as I said, not a lot of drastic changes are expected as a result of that. And it's just formalizing processes. Many of those processes we've already had in our requirements and processes that we follow, again, for governance and transparency, and ensuring that we're posting this information to our website, providing it to municipalities in a timely manner, and ensuring that there's proper circulation and commenting periods. With that, that is all I had for updates.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Appreciate that, and it's really good to see the the London Dyke project and the idea of a tree planting and memorial there. I think that's very appropriate. So yes, good to see. Thank you. Item number 12 is reports in camera, and we do have an item to discuss today in closed session. So if I can get a motion to adjourn into closed session, moved by Nancy and seconded by Margaret.
So moved.
So seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions on the motion? Not seeing anything, so I'll call for the vote. Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yeah.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that's carried. We are going to go into closed session. We'll just give Emily a minute here to stop. We just got to give Emily a minute here to get the live stream back up and running and get people back into the meeting. And while she's doing that, I'll just reminder for everyone that the Finance and Audit Committee will be meeting right after this. So maybe we can take a 5-minute break and give people an opportunity to go to the washroom and maybe get a drink, and then we'll get the Finance and Audit Committee underway. Are we back on the live stream now, Emily?
Yep, we are.
Okay, and we've got everybody back in the meeting we need?
Yep, everyone left the waiting room.
Okay.
So we're all here.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so we are back out in open session and have a motion here. If I could get Brian to move it, and Joe, if you could second it, that staff be instructed to proceed in accordance with the direction issued in closed session.
So moved.
Brian?
I'll second it.
Good, thank you, Joe. All right, so we had a good discussion there in closed session on this motion, and I'm going to call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Tony Jackson,
Yes.
Sandy Levin,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alex Westman,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that's carried. Thank you very much. Next item we have is item 13, adjournment, and ask Paul to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it. Lots of good discussion today and lots going on. just a reminder again, Finance and Audit Committee will be meeting in about 5 minutes time. We'll give everybody a short break, and hope everyone enjoys the spring weather, and people get out there and have an opportunity to help with spring cleanup and do some tree planting and enjoy the weather. It's we've kind of had some stops and starts, but it looks like some warmer weather is going to be on its way later in the week. So take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.